Welcome to Sleep with Myth. Close your eyes and let the world fade away. Tonight, we drift into a forest where every sound once had a twin, and where silence learned to speak. The night the echo did not return. There were forests where the wind carried memories, and forests where the roots whispered secrets, but only one place in the world held a sound that lived twice: the echoing wood. A forest where every sound had an echo born from ancient magic. Until one night it didn't. A girl named Elia discovered it first. She clapped her hands at the forest edge. Nothing returned. No echo. The forest had fallen silent in an unnatural way. The sound that fell to the ground. Elia stepped deeper into the trees. The sounds she made felt unfinished, swallowed by dense air. A pool of dew lay unnaturally still. A faint shimmer flickered inside it, almost like a dying memory of sound. Something was stealing the forest's voice. The trees that held their breath. The trees were rigid, their trunks silent. Even the ground made no reply to her footsteps. The echoing wood had closed its ears. Elia pressed her ear to a trunk. No hum, no resonance, nothing. The forest was alive, but voiceless. The first sign of the taking. At the forest's heart stood the heartwood tree, source of all echoes. Tonight, its bark dimmed, its roots brittle. When Elia touched it, a weak pulse rippled outward. Beneath it, a patch of shadow bent inward unnaturally, like a void that swallowed sound. Elia faced it. Why are you taking the forest's voice? The silence deepened. The promise of a girl who would not let silence win. The heartwood tree's faint pulse pleaded. Find it. Bring it back. Before the forest forgets itself completely. Elia lifted her lantern. I'll bring the echoes home. Her words did not echo, but the determination in her chest felt loud enough to fill the silence. The forest that hid its breath. Elia walked deeper into the echoing wood, her lantern trembling like a captured star. But nothing trembled back. The forest swallowed every sound, refusing to exhale. Silence clung to her ankles, pressed against her ears, and made the air too dense to breathe. The path where shadows had weight. She found a patch of darkness bent inward like stretched cloth. A void. When she shook her wooden charm, the faint ring was pulled inside and stolen. A warped, broken memory of the sound flickered back before disappearing. The void did not speak. It listened. The trees that began to move without sound. Deeper inside, the trees shifted without rustling. Leaves fell without a whisper. A tall ashen pine pulsed faintly. When Elia touched its bark, a vision struck her. Cracks spreading across the forest floor, echoes twisting into hollows, and the heartwood tree dimming as something consumed its voice. One message remained. Find the echo thief. The shape of a new fear. Guided by the tree's silent warning, Elia reached a ravine where echoes once multiplied beautifully. Now her voice vanished instantly, swallowed by thick, unnatural silence. Then tap, 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 a faint attempt by the forest to echo itself. Failing. The echo that was trapped. Inside a glowing knot of twisted roots, she found a trapped echo, her own voice whispering hello from moments earlier. Another deeper voice, trapped longer, warned, "Run, it's coming." Silence collapsed into the ravine like a falling wall. A figure stepped out, tall, hollow, wrapped in layers of stolen sound. A silence walker. Its body shimmered with trapped echoes, all suffocating under its hunger. Ilya stood firm. "You took the forest's voice," she said, "but you're not taking mine, the forest that hid its breath." Ilya walked deeper into the echoing wood, her lantern trembling like a captured star. But nothing trembled back. The forest swallowed every sound, refusing to exhale. Silence clung to her ankles, pressed against her ears, and made the air too dense to breathe. The path where shadows had weight. She found a patch of darkness bent inward like stretched cloth. A void. When she shook her wooden charm, the faint ring was pulled inside and stolen. A warped, broken memory of the sound flickered back before disappearing. The void did not speak. It listened. The trees that began to move without sound. Deeper inside, the trees shifted without rustling. Leaves fell without a whisper. A tall ashen pine pulsed faintly. When Ilya touched its bark, a vision struck her. Cracks spreading across the forest floor, echoes twisting into hollows, and the heartwood tree dimming as something consumed its voice. One message remained. Find the echo thief, the shape of a new fear. Guided by the tree's silent warning, Ilya reached a ravine where echoes once multiplied beautifully. Now her voice vanished instantly, swallowed by thick, unnatural silence. Then tap, 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 a faint attempt by the forest to echo itself. Failing. The echo that was trapped. Inside a glowing knot of twisted roots, she found a trapped echo, her own voice whispering hello from moments earlier. Another deeper voice, trapped longer, warned, "Run, it's coming." Silence collapsed into the ravine like a falling wall. A figure stepped out, tall, hollow, wrapped in layers of stolen sound. A silence walker. Its body shimmered with trapped echoes, all suffocating under its hunger. Ilya stood firm. "You took the forest's voice," she said, "but you're not taking mine." The aftermath of returned voices. The echoing wood exhaled for the first time in many nights. Ilya felt the change ripple through the roots beneath her feet. Not loud, never loud, but alive. A branch creaked overhead. A bird fluttered its wings. Somewhere deep in the canopy, something small sang a single trembling note. The forest had a voice again. Not whole yet, but healing. Ilya pressed her fingers to her lantern's wooden spiral. A soft warmth pulsed back. Gratitude from the heartwood tree. The silence walker without a purpose. The silence walker stood motionless across from her. No longer swelling with trapped echoes. No longer stealing breath from the world. It looked thinner, lighter, almost fragile. Ilya approached slowly. "You let them go," she whispered. The hollow lowered its head. Inside its emptiness, she sensed confusion. And something new. A question, small and trembling like a newborn leaf. "What am I now?" The heartwood's call. A pulse shook the ground. Soft, slow, ancient. The heartwood tree was calling. Ilya steadied herself and turned toward the forest center. "Come with me," she told the Silence Walker. You need an answer, and I think the Heartwood knows it. The creature hesitated, then followed, the steps making no sound, his presence no longer heavy or hungry. They walked together under branches that whispered faintly with returning life. The journey through the listening trees. As they moved deeper into the wood, the trees shifted subtly, their trunks turning, roots bending, leaves tilting. Not in hostility, in attention. They were listening to the Silence Walker, measuring it, judging it, forgiving it. Ilya wasn't sure, but she felt no fear. The creature beside her was no longer a prison of stolen voices. It was a vessel waiting to be filled. The Heartwood tree awakens. They stepped into the Heartwood grove. Even dimmed, the Heartwood tree towered above all others, its bark inscribed with natural spirals, its roots veined with pale glow. Tonight, for the first time since the forest lost its echo, light pulsed through its trunk like a slow heartbeat. Ilya bowed her head. I found the one who took your voice. The Heartwood did not speak aloud. It never had. Instead, its branches trembled, sending a ripple of resonance across the grove. A single echo returned to Ilya's ears, soft but clear. Thank you. The Silence Walker shuddered as the echo washed over it. Not from pain, from recognition. The verdict of the forest. The Heartwood's roots shifted, curling around the Silence Walker's feet. Not binding, guiding. A resonance filled the grove, neither sound nor thought but something between them. Ilya felt it shape itself into meaning. You were born from us, from what we lost, and now we choose what you will become. The Silence Walker trembled as the Heartwood's light climbed its hollow frame. The new purpose of silence. The light did not burn. It softened. It reshaped. The hollow inside the creature shifted, not closing, transforming. Ilya gasped softly. It was becoming something with form. Not a cage, a chamber, a listening place. The Heartwood's voice resonated again. Silence is not absence. Silence is space. The space where truth gathers before it finds the courage to become sound. Ilya stared. So, it wasn't meant to steal echoes. No, it was meant to protect them? Yes. The Silence Walker bowed, slow, reverent, as if understanding its place for the first time. The birth of the listener. Light rippled across the forest floor as the Heartwood tree completed its work. The Silence Walker rose taller, no longer shaped by hunger but by purpose. Its emptiness was no longer a pit. It was a cradle, a safe place where unspoken truths could rest without being lost. The forest accepted it. Ilya felt the shift like warm wind on her skin. The forest's request. The Heartwood's next pulse struck deeper. A call not to the Silence Walker, but to Ilya, child of the echo. There is more to restore. The forest's voice is returning, but its memory remains fractured. We need you both. Ilya swallowed. Both? The Silence Walker stepped gently beside her, as if offering partnership. A strange peace settled between them, the girl who spoke for the forest, and the creature who would hold its quiet truths. The first step of a new path. The Heartwood's final echo formed 3 words in Ilya's mind. Go. Restore. Listen. Ilya lifted her lantern. The Silence Walker lifted its hollow gaze. Together, they stepped forward into the recovering forest, carrying between them both sound and silence, both truth and courage, both memory and echo. Their journey was only beginning. The forest that would not sleep. Ilya expected the forest to quiet as night deepened. Instead, it grew restless. Leaves quivered with half-formed sounds. Branches hummed faintly with returning memory. Roots stirred beneath the soil like sleepers twisting in the grip of vivid dreams. The forest had regained its voice, but not its peace. The Heartwood tree had warned her. The echoes have returned, but the memory is broken. Ilya tightened her grip on her lantern. Beside her, the Silence Walker moved with calm purpose, its hollow chest filled not with stolen voices, but with a quiet that invited truth. They walked together through the stirring trees. As the forest whispered fragments of songs, fears, and forgotten warnings, the roots that called for help. At the edge of the whispering grove, the earth convulsed softly. Ripples passed through the soil, forming spirals around Ilya's feet. Not dangerous, summoning. "What is it?" she asked. The Silence Walker tilted its hollow head, listening. Inside its emptiness, a faint echo stirred, a groaning ancient sound. "The roots are speaking," Ilya whispered, "and they're afraid." The memory beneath the earth. Roots burst through the soil, glowing with pale memory light. They did not threaten. They trembled. Ilya knelt and touched one. A vision swallowed her, a memory of the forest. She saw a time long before she was born. The Heartwood tree tall and brilliant, echoes flowing between the trees like flocks of birds, voices returning twice to everyone who walked its paths. Then, a fracture, a breaking, something deep beneath the forest cracked, and the echoes stumbled. Where they stumbled, they fell. Where they fell, they pooled. Where they pooled, they twisted into hollows. Hollows that would one day become the Silence Walker. When the vision faded, Ilya's hand shook. "It wasn't just silence," she murmured. "It was a wound. The wound awakens." The ground quaked again, once, sharply. From the soil erupted a massive root. It was not glowing with memory light, pulsed with something darker, heavier, a knot of grief so dense it bent the air around it. The Silence Walker stepped forward, chest glowing with soft inner quiet, touched the root. A violent echo burst outward, a roar of pain that had never been expressed. Ilya fell to her knees. The sound wasn't loud. It was heavy, heavy like regret, heavy like a broken promise. The Silence Walker's hollow absorbed the echo, but even it staggered. "What is it?" Ilya whispered, voice trembling. The name of the wound. The root writhed, splitting open to reveal. A hollow of blackened wood filled with swirling memory dust. The forest itself answered her with a trembling sigh, the forgotten cry, a memory too painful to echo, a sound the forest never let return, a secret buried beneath centuries of growth. Ilya's skin prickled. She felt the shape of it, a grief so old the trees grew around it to keep it hidden. The forest's long-buried secret. The heartwood tree pulsed through the earth, sending meaning into Ilya's bones. Before echoes there was a child. Before the forest sang, someone wept beneath these roots. We tried to return the sound, but it did not want to come back. Ilya's lantern flickered violently. Someone cried here? Her throat tightened. And the forest couldn't echo it? No. Why? The roots shivered. The silence walker leaned close, as if bracing itself. The answer struck like a softened blow, because no one listened. The cry that never returned. That ancient grief had soaked into the earth, twisted, compressed, hardened into the dark not now rising before them. It was not evil. It was not alive. It was a memory still waiting to be heard. And until it was, the forest would never fully heal. Ilya reached toward the knot. The silence walker held her wrist. Not to stop her, but to steady her. I have to hear it, she whispered. The creature tilted its hollow, softly echoing her resolve. Hear it. The cry resurrected. She touched the knot. The world vanished. She stood in darkness beneath ancient roots. Rain dripped from unseen leaves. A small figure knelt in the mud, a child whose face she could not see. The child sobbed into their hands, but the sound never rose, never carried, never returned. Every tear carved a deeper echo hollow into the soil. Ilya sank beside the memory child, tears burning her own eyes. I hear you, she whispered. The memory child cried harder. I hear you, Ilya repeated. You aren't alone. The child lifted their head, and for the first time the cry rose. Not loud, not sharp, but real. The silence walker caught the cry in its hollow, holding it gently like a fragile bird. This time the cry did not die. It echoed, once, twice, then flowed back into the forest as soft healing rain. The roots released their burden. The dark knot split open. Light spilled out. The weight lifted from the soil, from the forest, from Ilya's own chest. The heartwood tree pulsed again, stronger, clearer. The memory is healed. The forest's gratitude. Ilya exhaled shakily. Leaves around her rustled in warm chorus. The forest thanking her. The silence walker bowed deeply, its new purpose glowing in its hollow frame. You helped carry the part no one wanted to hear, Ilya whispered. The creature's quiet reply shivered the air. I hold what must be held. You hear what must be heard. Together they turned toward the heartwood grove. For one final secret waited there, the oldest and most fragile of all echoes. The forest that breathed again. Morning arrived slowly in the echoing wood. Light filtered through the leaves in trembling strands, as if the forest were still learning how to glow. Soft sounds returned one by one. A distant bird call, the rustle of waking branches, the sigh of moss warming under sunlight. Ilya breathed in sharply. For the first time since this began, the smallest sounds echoed back to her. Quiet, fragile, beautiful. But the heartwood tree had warned her. One final echo remains. The oldest, the most delicate. Beside her, The silence walker stood still, its hollow chest glowing with soft inner light. Not hunger, not emptiness, but purpose. "Are you ready?" Ilya whispered. The creature answered without sound. "Ready." The Heartwood's final secret. They reached the Heartwood Grove, where the ancient tree towered above them like a guardian of time itself. Its bark pulsed with warm spirals, its roots humming with newly returned echoes. Yet at its core, something remained dim. Ilya touched the trunk. A vibration rippled outward. Not pain, not warning, but longing. A message shaped itself in her thoughts. There is one echo we never returned. The first. The one that created all the others. Ilya swallowed. The first echo belonged to the forest itself, didn't it? The Heartwood answered with a gentle tremor. Yes. The sound that created the forest. The silence walker stepped forward. Its hollow began to shimmer, widening into a chamber shaped by ancient memory. The Heartwood tree responded, light flowing down its trunk, seeping into the ground, rising like mist around them. Then Ilya heard it, a heartbeat, soft, slow, endless. The forest's first voice, before humans, before animals, before roots learned to drink light. It was the sound of the wilderness awakening for the very first time. A deep inhale that promised life. But something was strange. The heartbeat had no echo. It was alone, and it was afraid. The fear of a lonely sound. Ilya's chest tightened. The first sound the forest had ever made had never been answered. It had echoed into the world and received nothing in return. And from that loneliness, echoes were born. The forest's attempt to make sure no voice ever wandered alone again. The forest created echoes, Ilya whispered, to give itself what it never had, a reply. The silence walker trembled, sensing the sorrow hidden within the ancient heartbeat. The Heartwood tree pulsed urgently. Complete the circle. Return the first echo. Give the forest what it always longed for. Ilya placed her hand on the silence walker's chest. "Can you hold it?" she asked. The creature answered, "We hold what must be held." The return of the first echo. The forest's original heartbeat surged from the Heartwood tree, traveling through roots and leaves, gathering in a swirl of pale gold. The silence walker opened its hollow, and the heartbeat entered, a sound older than memory. The creature staggered. It had carried grief, fear, hunger, but never something so pure. Ilya stepped closer. "It's okay. Let it fill you." Light bloomed inside the silence walker. The hollow, once a void, became a chamber of warm resonance. The first heartbeat pulsed again, and this time it echoed. Once, twice, 100 times. The forest trembled and answered. Branches shook with joy. Birds rose in spirals of sound. The ground vibrated with relief. Even the wind echoed back the heartbeat, carrying it across the valley. The first echo had finally returned home. The forest that could finally speak. The Heartwood tree glowed with full brilliance, the spirals bright, its bark alive, its roots humming with a million memories. For the first time in centuries it spoke clearly. "Thank you, both of you. The forest is whole." The silence walker bowed so deeply its form rippled like water, accepting its new purpose. Guardian of silence, keeper of truth, holder of echoes before they are born. Ilya touched her lantern. The spiral glowed in response, not as a tool, but as a symbol. She was no longer just a girl who loved the forest. She was its listener. A new path begins. Is it over? She asked softly. The heartwood replied, no. Echoes return, but they also wander. Voices live, but they also fade. As long as there is courage to speak, there must be courage to listen. Ilya exhaled. She looked at the silence walker. It extended a hand, an invitation. Ilya took it. Together, they stepped out of the heartwood grove. The girl who could hear the forest's heart, and the creature who carried its silence. The echoing wood rustled with gentle sound as they passed. Alive, awake, listening. Their story was no longer one of loss. It was one of beginning,